What's up, Padlords? It's your god, Lightwater here, coming at you with another video. And today, we're going to be doing Resto Druid. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start off with the first spell, Rejuvenation. Now, one thing before we get started that you should know, see where it says 11% of your base mana? This is an error. It should say 2.2%. Essentially, you just divide whatever number it says by 5%. And this is from you switching from essentially a class that had a lot smaller mana pool to a lot bigger mana pool. So it's all bugged. But anyways, essentially it costs 2.2% base mana. Heals the target for 68% of your spell power over 12 seconds. There is a passive that increases it by 3 seconds later, but we'll get to that. Next up is Swiftmend. This is going to be, let me look at my little chart over here. This is going to be 2.8% of your base mana. And it's going to heal a friendly target for 240% spell power with a 25-second recharge. And it does have one charge because you could potentially get more charges later. Next up, Life Bloom. This is real mana cost is 2.2%, so it's not too bad. Heals target for 135% over 15 seconds, and when it ends or it's dispelled, target is instantly healed for 80% of spell power. So that's the Bloom effect. Alright, next spell. This is a bug that is not actually in the game anymore. They took out Healing Touch. So if you didn't know, there's no more Healing Touch in the game. Yseria's Gift, this is just a passive. You constantly heal people around you. It's a smart heal too, so it's going to heal the lowest person in the raid, which is nice. Alright, Wild Growth. So this is actual mana cost is 6%. So it heals 6 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for 63% of your spell power over 7 seconds. The healing starts high and declines over the duration. It's a 1.5 second cast, and it has a 10-second cooldown. Regrowth. Now, this is a regrowth passive effect. This is actually not in the game. So if you were used to Resto Druids getting a free 40% increased chance on the critical strike of regrowth, that is no longer a passive that exists in the game. And the reason they took that away is because they buff regrowth, but we'll get to that in a second. We still have Omen of Clarity. So your Life Bloom has a 4% chance per heal to make your next regrowth cost no mana, which is nice. And it's important to note that it makes it cost no mana. It doesn't give back the mana cost, which is unfortunate, but because otherwise you could compare it with certain trinkets and whatnot. Or it would be better with your Innervates. Innervate. So we do still have Innervate. It's a 3-minute cooldown and essentially allows you to cast, or allows a friendly healer to cast for 12 seconds without spending any mana. Very nice. This is the passive I was talking about earlier. This gives 3 more seconds to Rejuve's duration. So with that, Rejuve's actual duration goes to 15 seconds. Okay, so this is Ironbark. It's a 1-minute cooldown now. I believe it used to be 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes before. So yeah, it's a lot lower cooldown. And it reduces the damage the target takes by 20% for 12 seconds. And is free. It doesn't cost any mana, which is nice. This is another bug. Living Seed is not in the game. You do not have Living Seed anymore. That was taken out. So no Living Seed and no extra critical strike chance on regrowth, and no healing touch. So yeah, I know you lost a lot of things, but it's okay because it actually works out. You'll see here in a second. Effervescence, same thing it's always been basically. The true mana cost of this is going to be 4.32% of your mana, and it restores 14.11 spell power to 3 people every 2 seconds for 30 seconds. So essentially 15 heals over its duration to 3 people. So not bad at all. And here's your Mastery Harmony. It is unchanged. Essentially, your healing is increased. The base is 4.8, but your healing is increased by 4.8% for each one of your restoration heal over time effects on the target. This is pretty good. With a decent amount of Mastery, you can get this up to 20%. So it's pretty insane if you think about it. If you have 3 healths on a target with this Mastery at 20%, that's a 60% increased healing that you do to the target. This Mastery single-handedly dictates pretty much the entire way you play the game. That's how good it is. Last but not least, we have Tranquility. The true mana cost of Tranquility is 3.68%. And it's going to heal 205 spell power over 8 seconds to each person in the raid, plus an additional 8% of spell power over 8 seconds. Hot stacking. The hot can stack up to 5 times, I believe. It's either 5 or 8. And then the healing on this cooldown compared to other healers is just insane. And the fact that it adds a hot while it heals is really good because, like I said, if you have the mastery, it essentially just adds 20% to the healing of your tranquility. Like, your tranquility is just insane how much it heals for. So it doesn't have the regrowth on here, so you'd have to go to baseline to look it up, which we did. Where is it at? I just passed it. It is. So this is your last spell, but it is in there. The true mana cost of regrowth is 2.8%. And it heals a friendly target for 120% of spell power and an additional 30% of spell power over 12 seconds. It does not have that increased critical strike effect that you see on here. So it's worth keeping that in note. And guys, when you're looking up this stuff, it always pays to have your character loaded up in game and be double checking with these sites, because even though these are sites that are supposed to be designed to helping you out by giving you good, accurate information, you can't even trust them. So you have to essentially check multiple sources, right? So I'll check the game, I'll check websites, I'll check guides, I'll check everything to make sure I have the right numbers. And I did that for you here. Speaking of numbers, yep, your favorite notepad is back. So I went ahead and put down our coefficients, so how much they heal for here, the cooldowns, the mana cost, and our favorite number over here, how much healing they do per 1% mana. So Rejuve coming in pretty low at 38, Swiftman at 85, Life Bloom at 97, Wall Growth at 63, Effervescence at 146, Regrowth at 53, Tranquility at 1,591, and Cenarian Ward at 119. I felt like it was important to include Cenarian Ward in here because it is one of the spells that you can take. Alright, so now we will talk about the talents. Let me go ahead and put this guy away, and I will bring out the other notepad. So this class was a lot of fun to theorycraft, and a lot of the power came from essentially the mastery functioning with the talents. And so we'll kind of go over each one of these talents now, but it was pretty difficult to theorycraft, to say the least. Okay, so my favorite new talent is Abundance, and Abundance used to affect your healing touch, and it was kind of weird. But now it affects rejuve or affects regrowth. So for each rejuve you have active, regrowth's cost is reduced by 6%, and the critical effect chance is increased by 6%. So I did multiple simulations, and a lot of math went into this. I paired this talent with other things like Germination, which allows you to have 2 rejuves on a target. I paired it with Cultivation, but I did multiple sims. I essentially said, what would it be like if you rejuve the target with Cultivation and then hit them with a regrowth, and that was your main rotation. So all you did was go around the targets going rejuve, regrowth, rejuve, regrowth. I tried that sim out. I tried, what if we had Germination? We went rejuve, rejuve with Cultivation, then a regrowth. I tried it all, guys. What I came to realize, which I'll show you later, is that this is actually an amazing talent, and you average out about 6 rejuves out all the time, right? So what does that mean? Well, that means that your regrowth on average is going to do about 36% more healing and cost 36% less. That's a twofer, right? So imagine its cost goes from up here to here, and its healing goes from here to here. Like, it really makes it that much better. So Abundance is pretty insane if you're going to be playing that playstyle. I found that Abundance was about a 14 to 20% HPS increase, which is insane for your first row talent. Moving right along. We'll go over these more in detail later, but I just kind of want to cover them all now. Prosperity. This is not too good. It was about a 1.9 to 3.4 HPS increase. Not the best. The main reason is, so Swiftman's cooldown is 25 seconds. This will make your Swiftman go from 25 seconds to 22. It's not the best in the world. It gives it another charge, which basically gives you 1 more for the entire fight. But I think I did the math over here. And this is going to all be in the Google Docs below the video, by the way, if I haven't mentioned that already. I did all this math, and I've typed it all up, and it's all down there. I think it adds like 3 more for an entire 6-minute fight. Like, maybe you get 3 more Swiftmans. That's it. So it's pretty dog shit. Cenarian Ward had a little bit of life to it. It was about a 4 to 8% HPS increase. Scenario Ward gets twice as good if you take Flourish as well, right? Because flourishing a Scenario Ward is insane. Let me put it this way. So Flourish lasts 8 seconds. It increases the duration of all of your hots by 8 seconds, and while they're going, doubles how much they're healing, right? Well, this is only an 8-second hot. So if you were to double an 8-second hot's healing, right, that becomes 16. And if you were to increase the 8 seconds portion and make that double, that's like 16, right? So it essentially triples how much. Like, essentially every minute and a half, you're going to get a scenario where that's triple than when it was normally. And that really helps a lot to its overall essentially value to your HBS. But at the end of the day, it was still only about a 4 to 8%, whereas abundance is 14 to 20%. So moving right along, these are kind of up to like whatever you want. If you want mobility, you want a jump. This is essentially you can jump to an ally's position. 15-second cooldown, not that bad. I mean, renew is a heal, but I mean it's a 1.5 minute cooldown. It's okay. You probably want to use this in bear form for the maximum effect. So yeah, this is dealer's choice. You get to pick whatever you want. Next row is kind of interesting. This gives 5 more yards. Balance affinity, 5 more yards. Barrel affinity basically just gives you 15% movement speed. All right. Guardian affinity gives you a 6% damage reduction, and also it gives you a 24% of your maximum health heal about every 30 seconds. So I found that Guardian affinity was essentially the best for survivability. It's a noticeable difference to your survivability. But if it's a high mobility fight and you're not personally taking a lot of damage, you could take barrel affinity. Or if it's a stand still, you don't need to really move anywhere. You're not taking that much damage. I guess you could take balance affinity, right? This is obviously a situational talent. This next row is just CC. I don't really care. Okay, so row 75. You have Soul of the Forest. When you cast Swiftman, you gain Soul of the Forest, increasing the healing of your next regrowth or rejuve by 200%, or increasing the healing of your next wild growth by 75%. And I was right about this time, I should probably show you the updated values of the healing per mana spent, right? Now, this has everything factored in, which we'll get to. But as you can see, Wild Growth is not that great. Wild Growth is actually one of your worst spells possible. It costs so much mana, and it hardly does anything healing-wise. So to Soul the Forest Wild Growth is just a huge mistake. It's just not worth it. Like, I did the math, and it's if you were going to take Soul of the Forest, you would want to use it on a regrowth. Regrowth is going to be, because of abundance, is going to be your hardest hitting per mana spent spell. So, because of this, Soul of the Forest is only, where I have it down here, a 2 to 6% HPS increase. So it's not the greatest, right? Now Cultivation. This is a fun one. I should mention that if you take Soul of the Forest, it does make Prosperity a little bit better, but it's not really enough. So, alright, next up is Cultivation. Whenever your rejuve heals a target below 60%, it applies Cultivation to target, healing them for 24% of spell power over 6 seconds. Now remember, your rejuve is 15 seconds long, right? After the 3-second increase from the passive. So, this can potentially be on the entire time. And if it is on the entire time, it will do 60% of your spell power over 15 seconds, right? Now, 60% is a lot because rejuve only does 85. It's almost the entire amount of the spell again. Not to mention, it counts as another hot, so it's another 20% of your mastery, right? It's insane. I think it's total. Let's see here. I did all the math for it. It's a 12.4 to 24.8 HPS increase. So these two numbers here, this is essentially with the raid being above 60% health the majority of the time, and this is them being below 60% for the entire time. So somewhere between 12 to 24% is the actual value of this talent. That's how good it is. And this is because of your mastery. This is just another hot, right? This doesn't provide another hot. This doesn't provide another hot. This does. It's all about your mastery. Now the tree form overall is about a 5.8% HPS increase. So not nearly as good as Cultivation, but we'll read it out. Shapeshifts into the Tree of Life, increasing healing done by 15% and increasing armor by 120%. and granting protection from polymorph. Your functionality of your rejuve, wall growth, regrowth, and entanglement roots is enhanced. Now, it doesn't list it here, but I have it memorized. So the functionality of your rejuve is the most important part. It increases the amount that your rejuve heals by 50% and reduces its mana cost by 30%. Your wall growth affects 2 more targets, which is essentially a 40% buff. Your regrowth becomes instant, which is whatever. It's nice for movement. And I forgot, I don't even care what your entanglement roots does because we're here for healing. The buff to your rejuve is very nice, and that's where it gets most of its increased healing from. And obviously, it does increase your healing by 15% when it's active, so it's not bad. But as far as a raw throughput talent, it's pretty terrible. It pales in comparison to cultivation and should only really be taken to counter certain mechanics if you absolutely have to. Now, all the rest of the math is in the Google Docs if you want to learn more about it, but I'm not planning on taking it. Inner Peace. This one was pretty good. It's a 7.5% HPS increase. Essentially, it's going to allow you to get 3 Tranquilities off in a 6-minute fight instead of 2, which is always nice because obviously Tranquility does a lot of work. It's basically that simple. It's good. It's not bad. It's good, but it's a close second. This is the worst talent in the row, but it got a lot better. So this decreases the cooldown of your Iron Bark by 15 seconds and increases the healing from your heal over time effects by 20% on that target. They probably should have said that, but it's on that target. This is pretty interesting because Iron Bark lasts 12 seconds, so it will be up for 12 out of every 45 seconds, which is actually a 26% uptime on a 20% increased healing buff on the person. So it comes out to be about a 5.33% HPS increase. So it's actually close to Inner Peace for an HPS increase. So if it's a really hard tank healing fight, you could actually take a slight hit to raw HPS, take Stonebark, and the 20% DR being up 26% of the time is just insane. Plus, all the increased healing on them. So you could take it. It could be a situational talent. It's not garbage anymore. The best throughput talent in the row is Spring Blossoms. Each target healed by your Effervescence is healed for an additional 15% spell power over 6 seconds. Now, again, this is the winner of the row because guess what? It's a hot. And this is basically going to be half your raid because half your raid is going to be either a tank or melee. And this being on half your raid the entire time is just madness. It's so much increased healing. I didn't even factor that into its total raw healing, and it still beat the shit out of Inner Peace. Just the amount of extra healing this does is insane, and I can show you here. So, where is it? Effervescence. Okay, so here's Effervescence with that talent, right? So it heals for 1571. Now we can go back to the base values, and here's Effervescence now, 634. That's how much it increases by, from 634 to 1571, more than a double increase. It's an insane talent, and it's more healing done than an extra Tranquility by far. Having an Effervescence down for all 6 minutes of the fight just does insane healing. All right, moving on. I will. It's all in the Google Docs too. You can see how much of an HPS increase it is. Let's see here. I had it written down. It's a 10.8% HPS increase. So this is worth about 10%. This is 7.5, and this is about 5%. So they're fairly close, surprisingly, but Spring Blossoms is a clear winner. Oh no, there's a baby crying. I gotta hurry. Okay, so now we get to the 100 talents where it starts really getting interesting. The new talent that I had, Photosynthesis, has 2 effects. So there's going to be 2 situations we have here. While your Life Bloom is on yourself, your periodic heals heal 15% faster. Okay, interesting. Or situation 2, when your Life Bloom is on an ally, your periodic heals heals on them. Have a 5% chance to cause it to bloom. Now, that I spent a lot of math figuring out what that meant. Like a lot. And so essentially, I wrote down situation 1 and 2 here. So situation 1, this will be the one where you put it on a tank and you essentially want to stack all the hots on the tank to get as many extra bloom heals from the 5% as possible. If you do it and you play that playstyle, it's a 6.5% HPS increase. If you put the life bloom on yourself to just increase all of your hots by 15%, it's a 10% HPS increase. The reason it's not 15% is only about 60, or rather 2/3 of your healing, it comes from hots. The other 1/3 is actually from direct heals. So unfortunately, photosynthesis isn't exactly a 15% HPS increase, about a 10%. Still pretty good, honestly, not bad. It's a pretty interesting talent too. I like talents like this. They need to be making more talents that are interesting. Germination. Boy, was this one a hard one to theorycraft. This is actually an HBS. I want to say loss, but it basically is a 0 HBS increase. The reason for this is, and I will go back to the notepad over here, there are 2 combos that you can basically do with Germination. The only reason to take Germination is to put double rejuve on a target. But because you're probably taking Cultivation, the first rejuve put rejuve and Cultivation, but the second rejuve is only doing rejuve. But yet you've spent twice as much mana to do a lot less, right? Since Cultivation and rejuve alone is, say is worth 1, and rejuve Cultivation does about 2 worth of healing, right? So you pay the price of 1 rejuve, but you get 2 healing, right? But if you apply another rejuve, it's like paying twice the price, but not that much of a gain. Like only a 50% gain for paying twice the price. It's difficult to explain, but I did all the math down here. Essentially, the double rejuve combo comes out to 132, and the single rejuve combo comes out to 131. So this talent is almost a 0% HBS increase, unfortunately. I wish that Germination would say like your second rejuve costs 50% less, then that would be a lot more interesting. But fortunately it does not. So Germination's probably relegated to 5 mans only. But even then, I don't know if photosynthesis wouldn't just be better. Yeah, Germination's kind of in a really shitty place right now. It just kind of sucks dick. Alright, moving on to Flourish. What a lovely cooldown. 1.5 minute cooldown, so 90 seconds. Extend the duration of all of your heal over time effects on friendly targets within 60 yards by 8 seconds. And increase the rate of your heal over time effects by 100% for 8 seconds. Sorry guys, I'm sick if you can't tell. But I still need to crank this video out. Okay, so what does this mean? This talent, I did a lot of work for, and I figured it's essentially a 15.54% HPS increase. So about 5% more than photosynthesis. The reason being is you can combo things before this. So like a good combo would be Tranking and then a Wild Growth before Flourish. And it's just insane healing. Like the healing from your Trank is going to get boosted, right? The hot that you put on, because remember, Tranquility has a hot now. And Wild Growth, where you normally wouldn't cast it, during Flourish, it does something like 4 times more healing, so it actually becomes mana efficient. So you actually would take Flourish in a raid, and you'd only cast 4 Wild Growths, and 1 before each Flourish, right? So in your recount in a 6-minute fight, you should only see 4 Flourishes and 4 Wild Growths. It's kind of interesting like that. Otherwise, Wild Growth's really not worth casting. But yeah, Flourish, it's a huge cooldown. Essentially, it's going to guarantee that you have really, really big HPS spikes every minute and a half, which is always something desired by healers, right? We want healers to counteract big damage points, and it's just a solid talent all around. I guess if there's absolutely no damage spikes, you could take Photosynthesis, but just remember you will take a 5% hit to your HPS, so I hope it's worth it. All right, so what does it all mean? With all these talents and all of this mastery and everything calculated, I have a final thing here. Alright, so here is going to essentially be your top spells. So you have Tranquility at the top with 1754, Effervescence at the top with 363, Life Bloom at 232, then Regrowth at... Oh, I should note that this is a Regrowth with 8 stacks of Abundance on a target with 2 hots prior, right? At 163, Swiftmend at 137, and Rejuve at 105. Anything under this line, you are basically not allowed to cast. It is not worth casting. all these little things over here I'll explain right now. Plus M1 means 1 stack of mastery because Tranquility puts a hot on, so naturally it includes 1 stack of mastery. When you see M3, that means that it's 3 stacks of mastery. So this regrowth is essentially like this efficiency would be for if you had cast a rejuve before and it had the cultivation proc. So and here's your rejuve, just a standalone rejuve on a target with the cultivation and a regrowth hot. So everything under this line is pretty bad. Everything above this line is pretty good. What does this mean? This means you never, ever, ever just want to put a rejuve on a target or just a regrowth on a target. Or even just cast rejuves or just cast regrowths. It's a very complicated rotation. Essentially, you want to go around to the lowest health targets, put a rejuve on them first, which procs cultivation. Then you heal them with regrowth. Right? The regrowth will be increased by 40% because they already have 2 hots. Then all 3 of those hots will be increased by 60% because there's now 3 hots. It's complicated, I know, but trust me, when you play it right, the HPS is out of this world. When you play it wrong, you'll be bottom of the meter. It's that big of a difference. It's huge. It's huge. Playing in this build right or playing this build wrong is it's probably takes the most skill out of all the healer videos we made so far. You can cast. Oh, you'll notice that Swiftman +3. So you really want to try to cast your Swiftman on targets that already have 3 hots. So you give them a rejuve, that procs cultivation. You cast regrowth on them, or maybe they're still injured a lot. Then you get them that big Swiftman. It'll be nice. That'll probably most likely be on tanks, so you're constantly keeping hots on who are constantly getting smashed. Yeah, below this line, you don't want to do these. You don't ever cast Wild Growth outside of Flourish. Just don't use it. All right. You also never cast Regrowth with 0 rejuvenations up, right? You always want to make sure that when you cast Regrowth, it's because you have a bunch of rejuves up, buffing it because of abundance, right? So yeah, rotation. Use Tranquility as much as possible. Maintain 100% uptime on your Mushroom and your Life Bloom. Mandatory. Very important. Use Swiftman on cooldown, but only on a target that has Rejuve and Regrowth hot. Otherwise, it's not efficient. If you can't get a good Swiftman on, you just don't cast it. That's simple. Never just cast Rejuve or just Regrowth. Make sure you alternate the cast. That's right. So, Rejuve, Regrowth, Rejuve, Regrowth. You go to one person who's low, you give him a Rejuve, then a Regrowth. Then you go to the next person that's low, you give him a Rejuve, Regrowth. This is the best way to maximize your HBS. Every time you fuck up this combo, it'll show in your HBS. Number 5, use your Flourish on cooldown as much as possible. Okay, so there are 2 types of flourishes that you can do, and you need to master them. The first one, you cast about 8 to 10 rejuves beforehand, then you Wild Growth, then you Flourish. Okay, so now all of those rejuves and the Wild Growth have all been extended another 8 seconds. So now you have about probably 8 to 10 rejuves out, which means you'll have 10 stacks of abundance. That means all the regrowths for the next 10 seconds will be at 60% power and 60% cheaper. That's an insane efficiency. So then you spam regrowths for 10 seconds. So let's review it. 8 to 10 rejuves, then Wild Growth, then Flourish, then spam regrowths for 10 seconds. Okay? It's a difficult combo to pull off. But if you do it right, the amount of healing you'll be able to do in this window is insane. It's just so much. It's absolutely bananas, as we say in chat. Okay, now the next type of Flourish. The next type of Flourish you want to pair with Tranquility. Okay? So what you would do is you would Tranquility. Pretty simple. So you're standing still, you Tranquility, then you Wild Growth, then you immediately hit with a Flourish. That's it. That's the whole combo. Because Tranquility is a 3-minute cooldown, you'll be able to do a Tranquility Flourish combo every other Flourish. Okay? Flourish has half the cooldown of Tranquility. So, when you're not using a Tranquility Flourish, you have to be using this Rejuve, Wild Growth, Flourish, then spamming Regrowth strategy. And this is going to give you essentially a really, really powerful 1.5-minute cooldown. Right? Every 1.5 you'll be able to do either some Tranquility Flourish combo or this like crazy Rejuve, Wild Growth, Flourish, Regrowth spam. Okay? It's complicated. This is probably the hardest part of the build to figure out. Other tips. Always use your Moment of Clarity procs as soon as possible. The free regrowths are going to pay off, and so you just really need to be ready to take advantage of them. Always cast Rejuve first on a low target to proc Cultivation, then you heal them with the regrowth for the bonus Mastery heal. Then you move on to another target. Once the target has Rejuve and it has regrowth already, you move on. If you absolutely have to, right? And you have enough rejuves out already, you can hit them with another regrowth if you gotta save some lives. But there's other things you could probably hit them with first, like a swift mend or something, or switching your life bloom to them. Especially if your life bloom is about to, the duration's about to end anyways. But if you absolutely have to, you can regrowth a target. It's just not as efficient. But hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Typically, a target's probably not going to die though if it has your rejuve and regrowth on it, because it has cultivation as well, right? So those 3 hots typically can take care of one person, and you'd be a lot better off just moving on to another target. Here's the average cast for a 6-minute fight. You're going to want an equal amount of rejuves and regrowths. You can err on the side of a little bit more regrowths, especially because you'll get some that are free. And yeah, that's about it, guys. This is, again, for a 6-minute fight, kind of patchwork healing style. Obviously, everything's not going to be a perfect healing fight, so you might need to take different talents. But if you're trying to reach the highest raw HPS, this is the best build, mathematically. And I'll make sure I fix the talents here. So you know for sure. That needs to go there, that goes there. Yes. So yeah, this is the talent build I will be running right here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3. And yeah. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you again soon. Okay, that's the end, guys. Thanks for watching. Feel free to look down in the description, and you can catch me streaming at twitch.tv/lightwater. There's also a Google document in the description, so it can help you figure out anything that I wasn't able to talk about. Sorry for the longer video, and I apologize for my voice. I am still sick. It sucks. But yeah, there's also an email down there too you can hit us up at. And yeah, let's make healing great again.